Okay, let's warm up. I was planning to do a little bit of a warm up before I went live. That hasn't happened, so I'll warm up as we go. Jump in with any questions, and we can go from there. I haven't done one for a while. Said I was going to try and do them weekly. I'm going to try and bring them back as best I can. Obviously, let me know if you can't hear me properly or anything like that. No plans in terms of training. During the session, I'm going to do some handstand push-up later. I trained planche yesterday. Do my normal handstand balance most days of some sort, and then doing alternating the straight arm strength and the bent arm strength. How to be a calisthenics goat. You got to find out what you're passionate about, and then just train those consistently. That's the biggest thing, is consistency, and find the goals that really gel with you. I think that's the biggest thing. Calisthenics is such a wide variety of different things, and it's so easy to do so many different things and spread very fiddly. But if you really find the stuff that gels with you, then you'll be up training constantly every day. That's what I done. I saw a picture of Ido Portal in a one-arm handstand 11 years ago, and I was like, I want to learn that. So yeah, that took me on the journey, and then opened my eyes up to all this calisthenics stuff. And now my main goals is just around the push-in, so planche, press, handstand push-ups, and then maintain one arms. And it's been like that for the last 10 years or so. There is a digger out the front, so just let me know if that noise gets too crazy. Okay, let's warm up, see what the first handstand of the day allows me to do. So this is it. I haven't done anything. Okay, wrists are sort of happy. Okay, I can handstand. That's a good start. Okay, any particular questions to kick off? I suck at pistol squats. I'm very flat-footed. I love handstand and planche the most. Yeah, pistol squats are really cool. Limitation is, for me, is flexibility in the calf, the bent leg calf position. My squat, again, this will be a good example. So my squat is not too great, so I'm having to hold myself in that position unless I really warm it up. I need to work on the dorsiflexion of that foot. Something I've never really done. I've done it in head to toe position, so this dorsiflexion is pretty good for me, but in a bent knee position, which is really all about the pistol squat. But if you give me, if I try to do a pistol squat now, so now it's I fall backwards, so without warming that up a lot, or putting shoes on. If I put shoes on, I can do it, because I just fall backwards. So if you give me a heel lift, and most people are the same, get a weight plate of some sort, stick it underneath the heel, and then normally that will just be enough to sit forwards, and you'll at least be able to do an eccentric and then hold that position, and then you can sort of get up. Should be able to do it a bit better on that side. So just the heel lift opens it up for me. That's all I need. It's on the to-do list. Work on that dorsiflexion. Okay, when attempting handstand push-up negatives, I always fall back to my feet, underbalance. How can I shift my weight more to the other way in the descent? A good toe assist on the wall, only with one foot, is a really good way of doing it. Back to wall. I never used to use back to wall handstand push-ups because I used to think they would really make the body. Let's just take the jump off. Yeah, I used to think the back to wall ones would give you like a banana position. But if you set up exactly the same as you would do in a freestanding, so if I'm freestanding there, so I'm now looking at this straight leg as being my line for my handstand push-up, and this back leg is just helping me. What that does there is I can put a little bit of weight into that back leg now when I come down, and then I can come out like that. So what you can do there is you can put a little bit more weight towards the overbalance than you normally would, because you've got the ability to use this and it stops you from overbalancing. Because the tendency is when we do a freestand handstand push-up, so most people will do what you're doing and do this. So one of the things that can like help you fall back towards underbalance is what we don't want, is you try and touch the floor with your face. If you try and touch the floor with your forehead, that will tend to give you more of an upright position, or like that. So that fix might just help getting forehead to touch, or you could use the toe assist on the wall just to give you that just enough confidence to use the overbalance without falling. So those two things can really help. And also practice the shoulder stand position at the bottom. So a lot of people aren't strong enough in the shoulder stand position. So when they go down there, they're not used to it. It's not conditioned. So they fall out of the position. That makes me feel better. Yes, shoes and heel assist. I think the way to get it down for me. This could take a lifetime. Yeah, like if you really want pistols, obviously just make sure your squats are strong enough, your two-legged squat, and then work mobility of the hip and the heel, that dorsiflexion, raise the heel up, do eccentrics and partial range. If you fall over in the bottom position of the pistol squat, then just practice that by itself. So learn how to hold the bottom of the pistol squat with the heel lift, and then do the eccentric down to that, and then just use a partial range. Just make sure when you're using a partial range that you sit wherever you're coming down onto close enough so that you're mimicking the pathway that you're going to go to. So if I do a partial range pistol squat, what I don't want to do is have a target that I'm going to that's over here, because I'm going to fall backwards. What I need to do is get this on top, so it's like that. So my heel is like right underneath the partial range target. So when I touch, I can then come back up. I'm not falling onto the target. So that's a big one where people make that mistake. They get the target too far away from where the foot is. So I think that your hamstring should really be sitting down onto your calf for your pistol squat. Hello from Argentina. Hey, Argentina. Would you recommend a push-pull with legs routine or a hybrid routine, example, pull-ups and dips? It's all based around your goals. So you want to prioritize your goals first. So like my goals are push-based, so there'll be planche, handstand push-up, or press, handstand push-up. So then I would do one day with the planche, so with straight arm strength, and then one day with bent arm strength. And then whatever I do is my priority. So if my priority is planche for the straight arm day, then my secondary exercise will be a superset of front lever. So the opposite movement in a straight arm. And then when I do the bent arm day, exactly the same. So handstand push-ups is my priority. So chin-ups, muscle-ups, things like that would be my secondary movement. But I prioritize what's important to you, and then do it that way. If you've got 2 or 3 priorities, try and put them on separate days and have them as the main thing you work on, and then just superset it or do assistance exercises that fit or are the opposite movement. I'd recommend to do that. A lot of people try and search for the best routine, but if they're not feeding their passion, then they just won't keep consistent. But normally the bent arm, straight arm will work really well for most people. I don't know when to do core exercises like L-sit or front lever, tuck holds. Yeah, so I put them all as assistance exercises that make sense to the thing you're going to do. Like if you're training bent arm, I'll be definitely doing something like a L-sit to shoulder stand type thing. So where you're going from an L-sit position through to a bent arm position, whether that goes into a bent arm press, handstand, something like that. So you then work, then that's an easy way of adding in the L-sit. You could also go L-sit to planche. So if you're working planche as your main work, then L-sits would fit in as an assistance exercise. And if that doesn't make sense, then just work for the main strength goal and then put in secondary, like at the end of every other session, do some L-sit holds or something like that. But also make sure that if things like L-sits, that you've got the flexibility to do it. So a lot of people will try and get a straight-legged L-sit position and not realize they can't actually sit in that position. So ideally, you should be able to sit like that. Most people sit like this, and then when they try and do an L-sit, it's really hard because their back's rounding. But if you've got good forward fold flexibility, like doing an L-sit on the floor, it's way easier because you're not fighting space. Because you've got enough space to do the movement, you don't have to replace the lack of space with strength. So programming can be quite complex, but try and make it as simple as possible and just focus mainly on your goals, fill in a couple other exercises around it, and then it becomes a bit easier. Yeah, I mean, my routine is a mess. Yeah, what a lot of people do as well with their routines is they'll see someone on YouTube or Instagram or something like that, and they'll go, oh, I want that thing that they're doing. So they suddenly change their program based on a video they've seen. And that can happen like on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. So they're never actually consistently training the same thing over and over and over again. Like the last 11 years, I've literally been training the same things. So like I say, handstand push-ups, press or planche and one-arm handstand. They're like the main three things. And then that's driven the rest of the movements, whether that's mobility, whether that's front lever, back lever, and things like that. They've all come secondary because of the main drivers, which were those three movements for me. So find your passion, stick to a program that's pretty basic. Obviously, try different exercises as you go and learn from other people and things, but try and maintain consistency is the biggest thing, and fill any gaps. So if you find like you don't have strong dips or you don't have a strong chin up, but you're trying to get a muscle up, then obviously you need to work those foundations first. I've lost where I was. Does training your legs with weights slow down your progress in calisthenics skills like front lever? Yes and no. It depends how much you train your legs. Like if you've got massive, strong, muscular legs already, and your main goal is calisthenics, then I would back off and just maintain a bit of basic strength. Obviously, having a longer lever and a heavier lever is going to make things harder for certain exercises. But there's some pretty big guys who are doing calisthenics. You're just not going to be able to compete with someone who's 60 kilos and got very skinny legs. I just maintain a little, pistol squats. Make sure I can lift heavy deadlift, but that's also because of my age. So I want to make sure that I can pull a heavy weight. I believe like a deadlift once a month is really, really good for you. Super heavy, especially if you're older. But that's maintenance. So if you don't have strong legs already, I would build some sort of strength there. Your legs aren't going to get massive unless you go into more like bodybuilding and powerlifting and you train them all the time. My English is a work in progress. I know it's fine. The questions made total sense. Which is the best flexibility routine for posterior train? Think more what skills you want to achieve that will drive the flexibility routine. So why do you want to stretch your posterior chain? Something like a Jefferson curl or something like that is going to work hamstrings, calves, and spine into flexion, not necessarily extension, but it's going to work into flexion. So it depends what your goal is. Jefferson curl is probably like a number one to get those that forward fold depth and articulation of the movement of the spine. So that would be my go-to, but it depends what the goals are. Try and think that across the board as well. So I get lots of questions like on a daily basis, like what muscles do I need to train for press handstand? What muscles do I need to train for planche? What muscles do I need to train? So I wouldn't think in that way at all. I would think, okay, my goal is a planche. what exercise will give me the planche as opposed to what muscles do I need to work. Because if you try and become an expert at training a particular muscle, you're going to just be really good at isolating the thing and not good at the skill. So we want to be focusing on the skill all the time. What's your opinion on the one-arm pull-up compared to doing weighted explosive pull-ups training? Is it necessary feat of pulling strength? Look, I trained to it once. I got one-arm chin-up on one side on a ring. But when I was doing that, because I was training everything else at the same time, I found that I got really painful. Got a lot of pain in my elbows, my wrists, my forearms, to the point where it was stopping me training or reducing my training ability. I think a one-arm chin, one-arm pull-up is a fantastic goal if you've got the time to train it and it fits with all your other goals. But most people, even if you're working things like muscle-ups and stuff like that, you will normally run into some elbow, shoulder, wrist, forearm pain that you'll have to manage especially if you're doing that with handstand push-ups, handstands, presses, and all that. It's just so demanding, so intense on the arms, and trying to do a push and a pull at the same time. So I normally would program for people weighted chin-ups or explosive pull-ups or something if they're strong in a pull and they want to advance it. Obviously, if they don't have a standard pull-up and chin-up, it would just be working that basic, but it would normally be secondary to the handstand movements. So if someone's goal is a handstand push-up, then we'll superset some chin-ups with it. And then it's common that people will have a goal of a muscle-up as well. So I'll train towards that. I don't push the one-arm chin or one-arm pull-up, and I recommend anyone I've got training it, I would back off on the pushing. So they're a little bit healthier. So it's a tricky one. Very cool skill though. How long should I be able to handstand kissing before going for the handstand push-up? I'm assuming you mean a handstand push-up. I would start working bent arm strength pushing at the same time as you're learning the handstands. So the cool thing with the handstand push-up progressions is you can do the pike push-ups, you can do crow to handstand, even before you have a freestanding handstand. But I wouldn't stop training the freestanding handstand, I would do both. So, something like a crow to handstand for most people is going to be doable if they have a bit of pushing strength. So if you have strong dips, you have confidence to put weight into your hands and shoulders, then doing something like this and using momentum, that's going to take you towards a handstand push-up in terms of understanding the overbalance and coming out of that concentric, even though we're using a little bit of momentum, while you're also doing your handstand balance. You can even superset it. So you could go like crow up to handstand and then practice your handstand pull from the wall and do some reps there. Obviously, you need to already have some strength in the arms and shoulders, in the push-in, have good dips and things like that. I wouldn't recommend supersetting or linking movements like doing a combo like that if you don't have that strength, because what you don't want to do is fatigue yourself trying to do the crow to handstand, and then you're not going to have enough energy to play with the balance. What should I focus on the first year of calisthenics? If you're totally new to calisthenics, I've got a couple of videos on beginner calisthenics one that takes you through all the basic stuff, just more of a checklist. So I would just go through, because you're going to have strengths and weaknesses. You're going to have some areas that you're, like a very newbie with no experience at all. And then you have other areas where you've either had experience or you're naturally stronger or more flexible or something. So you first need to assess those things. So just check those basic movements. So things like dips, chin-ups, scapular push-ups, good mornings, then just all your like mobility work, check where your gaps are. And then from that, you can focus on the red flags. So any big gaps you have in those things, it might be that you're totally new and you don't have any experience. Then it would be, checking you can do push-ups, chin-ups, skin the cats, L-sit to shoulder stand, and the scapular work. And then mobility wise, doing things like Cossack squats, which are going to give you some strength in the in the hips and the legs, but also just increase mobility at the same time. Split squats, things like that. Those are fantastic exercises that will build some strength and conditioning in the legs, but will also mobilize the hips. How many exercises should my workout routine have? Currently, I do 2 strength blocks, block A and block B, each with 2 exercises, then block C with 3 accessory hypertrophy exercises. Yeah, to me, that sounds like a bit, in terms of calisthenics goals, I reckon that's a little bit too many. I would back off and just have one main strength set or superset and focus on that. So say you was doing bend time strength on one day, I would focus on just having a main working set of say 5 sets of 5 handstand push-up related movements. So it might be a pike push-up, it might be a chest wall handstand push-up, supersetted with chin-ups, and just have that as a 5x5, and then do a little bit of skill work around that, depending on where you're at. So practicing lower repetitions but more time under tension in there is the second lot. So you have that 5x5, that's where you work your strengths being done of whatever the weak area is that you need to get stronger for the skill you're going towards. And then I would put in a little bit of skill work around that. So it depends, again, what you're training. And then if your goals, say, are a freestanding handstand push-up, before you do the strength work, I would be doing some freestanding handstand practice, whether it's working towards a freestanding handstand or strengthening the one you have. So then you're doing the freestanding work at the start, and then you're doing like a little bit of a strength warm-up, whatever level you're at. So maybe some L-sit to shoulder stand, wait for the truck to go past. And then at the end, maybe some like skill work, 1 to 2 reps of maybe partial range handstand push-ups or something like that. But again, obviously, it's very, very specific to your current level and your goals. The key for me with handstand push-ups was really getting a straight handstand with the shoulders over the hands, fill it in the abs, and then go down at the bottom, release the abs, and fall back up. Yeah, understanding to overbalance when you come out of the handstand push-up and to come back up is really important. And you don't have to have a dead straight line for something like a handstand push-up. You just want to have a really good connection. So if I've got a really good connection between the feet and the hands, so here I could look like this, but if I've got, see how I'm connected as one piece, or I could look be in a straight line, whatever it is, but as I go down, my feet are going one side, my head goes to the other side, hold balance at the bottom, and then yes, fall up. So you see how I purposely went up and over to get back out. So I actually fell over because I exaggerated too much, that overbalance. So that like falling up is how you're going to get out of your concentric. And then obviously as you get stronger, you can just slow that down to the point where you're just more of a static, not static, more of a strict handstand push-up where there's no falling over. But it has to be dependent on your flexibility, your strength, and your balance window throughout the range of the handstand push-up. Also, can you break down the technique of handstand push-up in a bit more detail, like where you're looking, what you're doing exactly, and if you are pushing with your fingers the whole time? No, I'm not really pushing with the fingers. So basically, you want to be pushing through your palm all the time. So that's where you're driving your energy from. If you can't push through your fingers. The only reason you should be using your fingers in a handstand push-up is if you start to overbalance and you're trying to pull yourself back into the middle of your balance window. In terms of where I'm looking for the handstand push-up, all handstand exercises, I look down towards the floor. If I'm doing a handstand push-up, my focal point will go forwards to create the triangle between the hands and the head. So it's just going in line with where the shoulders are. So I'll do a really slow one so you can see what I mean. So to start with, I'm going to handstand here. So my hands are there, and I'm going to look straight down where my fingers are because that's where I want to have my balance line. So there, see I'm stacked. I'm looking straight down between the fingers. Then my shoulders are going to come forwards. My feet are going to come back. My elbows bend. My elbows come in. Then I come down to my head touches. So there, and then I just reverse that back up, push in,
until the shoulders come on top of the hands and my focal point has gone back to between my hands. So I'm looking there. When I come forwards for the handstand push-up, I'll come into there, so to create the triangle between the head and the hands, and then I come back with the head and shoulders on top of the hands and push straight up. Now that's the goal. Obviously, it's not going to look that clean to start with. The reason I can do it clean is because of the thousands of repetitions I've done, and because I can do 10 plus repetitions of handstand push-ups, a 1 rep can look super clean. Same as if you could do 10 reps of something else, you can do a 1 rep really nicely because it's your 10 rep max, not your 1 rep max. So just don't expect it to look pretty at the moment. And you might be stronger than me, but I will still be able to do more handstand push-ups at the moment. So just remember that as your skill gets better, that's when you can bang out handstand push-ups more than someone who's not as strong as you, who's stronger than you. So it's a really good example where skill really matters and understanding the technique, but know where you are at. So if you know you're at your 1 or 2 rep max, it's not going to look pretty. You're probably going to fall out on more of them. Okay, in handstand push-up training is including PPU. I take it that's pike push-ups. Is that pike push-ups? Variations helpful to include alongside bent arm presses and deficit wall handstand push-ups. Where should we include control negative eccentric handstand push-up? So I would just think that you want to train the full pathway. So from top to bottom, this is for most calisthenic skills, you want to train top to bottom. So the top of the movement all the way to the bottom of the movement, that's the full pathway. Now, for most people, that means an eccentric because they can't do the concentric yet. If they could do the concentric, the up, they would already be able to do it. So they could do the movement. So if you can't do the full movement up yet, you have to do the full movement down. So that's ticked off. We've done the full pathway. Then I would train a partial range movement or a assisted concentric. So something that makes it a little bit easier to go up with a very slow, controlled, ideally, down. So literally 2 exercises. Now, obviously, if you're you don't have a freestyle handstand yet, if you're very new to it, you might go, I'm going to do push-ups, dips, and work on my freestyle handstand. So you might have 3 exercises like that. But if you're more advanced and you're closer to the handstand push-up, you literally just want to have, I'll just focus on those 2 exercises. So an eccentric. Now, if your eccentric is strong, I would train a deficit eccentric. So you're going all the way down to collarbone to a box or to P-bars. That way you're not stopping here. You're going all the way past nice and slow. And then your partial range, just going to a target. So starting in a handstand, coming down, touching your head to a, say, yoga block or something, coming back up, and then just slowly decreasing the height of the target. So again, try and keep it as simple as possible. With those 2 exercises, you should achieve the thing. The hardest thing for most people is controlling them with the technique that's correct. So if you take something like a eccentric, if we're dropping through half of the movement because you can't control it, either through balance or through strength, then you're not training the full pathway because you're dropping through half the movement. So you don't have time under tension through half of the range. So you need to pick an easier exercise that allows you to get full range of motion through that eccentric. That could be easier from a balance point of view. So you could be more on the wall, or it could be easier from a strength point of view. So then you use drop back to like a pike push-up instead of a chest to wall eccentric. And then the same for the partial range. If you keep falling out of a freestanding partial range, then you need to be working on your balance, but you also need to make an easier variation of the partial range, whether that's dropping to a pike push-up or using a back to wall or chest to wall for the partial range. Thank you very much. You're welcome. The way that I'm able to do 2 reps of handstand push-ups is going down with the weight on my palms and then pressing the ground hard. You make it look so easy. Is there a more effective way of doing it? The way that I'm going to do 2 reps of handstand is going down with the weight on my palms and up by pressing the ground hard. I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to go down slowly with all the weight into the palms. Like I can do handstand push-ups with my fingers over the edge of a wall or a box or something. I can do handstand push-ups like that. I don't need to be pushing through the fingers. Same as you can do handstand push-ups on P-bars and you're just pushing down on the palm. Your fingers aren't doing anything. So you're not balancing really, ideally, if you stay in the middle of your balance window. And it's just literally pushing up and down, making sure that your body is in the most efficient pathway. The most efficient pathway for our goals. So calisthenics, we tend to go for the very, strict, slow, controlled handstand push-ups that carries over to lots of things. If you watch like how they do handstand push-ups in CrossFit, they're just about getting repetitions for competition and reserving as much energy as possible. So their technique is completely different to how I would teach a handstand push-up. So you just obviously have to fit with your goals, how you want to use it. Pseudo planche push-ups. Yeah, they're fantastic. Is that a question? They're a good exercise. I personally actually don't use them that much. But if you wanted to get like a planche push-ups and you can't do tuck planche push-ups, because that's what I would normally do is just go straight to tuck planche push-ups. But if you're working towards that and can't do them yet and your goal is to get them, pseudo planche push-ups are great. My handstand form looks straight when viewed from the side, but not from behind. I noticed that my leg tend to lean to the right. Do you have any advice on how I can correct this? I would only worry if you have pain. If you looks back, right, I think on my website, I've got some pictures of my initial handstands. I've got one leg, one foot that turns in, and my legs look bowed in my handstand from the back. And most people, especially when they go into like a straddle, they'll have one leg up or one leg down. All this is because your body is at its max and it's learning something new. As soon as it becomes not your max anymore, so say you can hold for 60 seconds plus consistently in a freestyle handstand, your handstand line will magically improve. And it's just because it's not at your max anymore. So it's just like your body's finding a way of balancing, and it could be where it's just showing your imbalances in the body. So we all have imbalances in our body. If I put like weights on your back and told you to do squats, if we keep increasing the weight, at some point your body's going to buckle into your weaker areas. So your knee will probably roll in, your body will twist. So at the moment you're handstanding in that. So your body's just demonstrating where your weak links are. I wouldn't worry at all unless you have pain. If you have pain, then we need to resolve it. If you don't have pain, then I would just keep getting better at the handstand, keep filling all the gaps, get good at bent arm strength, straight arm strength, presses, handstand push-ups, and then you'll find your line will magically improve. And I wouldn't rush that process. It's the same as if your handstand line from the side was terrible and you wanted to improve that. I would just work on all the things that improve that, and it's normally just more time at the mobility, more time at the handstand itself, and then it will slowly correct and get better. So don't rush improving the line too much. That's very, very common. Should I train frog stand to handstand even though I can only free handstand for about 5 seconds without losing balance? I would definitely be doing something like frog stand to handstand, pike push-ups, planches, as your strength movements, and your handstands are going to get better. But what we don't want to do is decrease the amount of handstand balance work we're doing. So I would still keep the handstand balance very, very consistent, and then add in as an addition the strength movements, and something like learning a crow position is really good, learning a frog is really good, learning to L-sit to shoulder stand, to skin the cat, to do scapular push-ups, to do tuck planches and stuff will make the harder movements much easier when you get to them. So then once your balance is better, handstand push-ups will be so much easier, presses will be so much easier, just because you got better at those other things. So yes, as long as it doesn't take away from your handstand balance work. Thanks, just got to work hard on my balance. Yeah, and enjoy the journey as well. Don't rush it too much. Just find like where you're at, some good exercises. Don't try and do exercises that are too hard for you at the moment, and just enjoy it, and it will slowly get better and better. Okay, so sorry, I meant pseudo planche push-ups. as the PPPU in the previous question. Is it useful to include alongside handstand push-up, eccentrics, concentric training? Yes, but it's just adding another exercise. That's one of the issues is there's, 10, 15 exercises that would be good for handstand push-ups. But if you've done all of them, then it's not enough of the same thing. So I would make it, super simple. Just have those 2 exercises that do a pathway and a partial range, and then add in something like that as accessory work or as to mix it up, but just keep those 2 foundations every time you train handstand push-ups, and add in like a third exercise if you want to, or one day just do the pseudo push-ups instead. So I'd do it like that. Keep it as an accessory and don't take away from the main things. Hey man, had a major decrease in my 2-arm balance for no apparent reason. Got down from about a minute freestanding to about 40 seconds. Yeah, look, those sort of things can happen. There's a lot of different things that could cause that. Obviously, just general health. If you're not sleeping as well, if your body's not as rested as much as it should be, if you're fighting a cold, if your balance is off for some reason, if you are inflamed. So like if your abdominal wall's not working correctly because your stomach's inflamed because you've eaten stuff that doesn't agree with you. So there's loads of things, because balance is so, especially handstand balance, it's so on the edge all the time. You'll know if you've trained handstands long enough to get 60 seconds. Some days your handstand will just feel fantastic, and other days it won't feel fantastic, and that's just how it is. As long as if you assess everything, like how often you're training, what you're doing when you're training. So a very common thing that will happen when people get up to like 30-second plus is that they forget about like the wall drills, or they forget about the drills they use to get to the freestanding handstand. I would just still keep them in some way, even if it's like a warm-up. Just do a check-in with them. One of the best things you can do, it's worked for me, is because I was a personal trainer when I started doing this training I was 37 when I started training this way. Straight away, I had clients that wanted to join me and train with me on this journey towards handstands and all these skills. So I started teaching. And then when I'm teaching these exercises, I'm demonstrating. So like now on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, in handstand classes, in my online coaching, in these type of things, I'm demonstrating drills that are too easy for me. But because I'm demonstrating them all the time, I'm benefiting from them, and it's filling all the gaps. So, I'm an expert at doing the beginner drills for handstands, even though I don't need to do them, because I'm still practicing them all the time. And I think what that's done is it's made me so much better at handstands, because I'm constantly demonstrating all the drills I use to get there. So I would just self-assess all the things that you use to get to where you was with the handstand. Look for gaps. If there's any gaps in them, train them again. Use it as part of your warm-up, and then check all those things. Have you been sleeping well? Have you been sick? All the other things that you would normally do if your strength decreases consistently. If it's just like a week that's funny, you'll probably be much better the next week. Also, if we can rep out freestyle handstand push-ups, would you still include eccentric, concentric plus wall handstand push-ups with a deficit as the main routine, with a little of the training going to freestyle handstand push-up practice? If you can rep out freestyle and handstand push-ups, I wouldn't include anything for handstand push-ups apart from working towards deficit. If you can rep out freestanding floor handstand push-ups, you can probably do 1 to 2 deficit anyway. So I would be doing both of those things. I would warm up with 5 to 10 freestanding handstand push-ups. If they feel okay, then I would work going to deficit handstand push-ups. Once you can do 2 to 5 deficit handstand push-ups in a set, then I would start working towards 90-degree handstand push-ups, or a different bent arm strength goal. So maybe it's L-sit to bent arm press to handstand, bent arm presses, dead presses, things like that. So I would just look at progressing the handstand push-up skill if you can rep them out. I love tuck, planche, push-ups. I've been working on these combined with frog stand. I started just sticking one leg out, then both. Now I can pulse up and down in straddle planche. No full push-up yet. That's awesome. Yeah, sounds like you've got that down. I'm sort of stuck at, on a good day, I can do a straddle planche to tuck planche push up, but I can't do straddle planche push ups. But again, I've never really trained them. That's where the pseudo push ups, planche push ups would have probably benefited me to do more of those. I stuck more with going towards like 90-degree handstand push ups, dead presses, and stuff. Thank you, helps a lot. Cool. My hands go numb after about 15 seconds in a handstand. Is that normal? No, it's not normal. I would just back off on what you're doing. So whatever intensity or level you're doing, just make it slightly easier and create more space. So what can happen is we try and get into, when we first handstand that we should handstand like this. So even if I'm doing chest to wall and stuff, you see people that have, really strong handstands. Oh, I can't handstand now. So you get people that will handstand. So I'm not warmed up to do this close, but see how close my arms are there? So now this is really challenging for me to hold this because I haven't done enough warm up this morning. So what I should do, and what you should probably do if you're finding tingling, is go a little bit wider with your hands and also do external rotation. So if I open the hands out into external rotation, so like this, I've now created more space. So now when I go into my handstand, I have way more room. And even if I bend my arms a little bit, so it's seen as a bad thing to do is bend the arms, but that's exactly the same as if I'm hanging and I can't do this when I hang. I should hang like this at the moment. And then over time, I'm going to stretch out and create more space. So it's normally numbing, tingling feeling is because you're restricting something. So we want to just open things out, create more space, and also make the exercise easier in some way. So if you're doing freestanding attempts, go to the wall. If you're doing wall, maybe do like more of a froggy tucked position on the wall where you're not demanding a straight body line as well as demanding shoulders here and arms in really close. So normally I would do that. So just back off in some way, create more space, and then also increase mobility. So if you're tight in your pecs, if you're tight in your lats, that's going to stop you putting your hands above your head correctly. So if I can't put my hands above my head and I look like this, and I'm forcing it, straight away that's going to trap nerves and things. You get your thoracic outlet in your shoulder that sends nerves and blood flow down there's the gap that sends the nerves and blood flow down that arm. If I trap that when I go into this position or force my shoulder closed, then my hand can all feel funny. So just create a bit more space, opening the thoracic up more through mobility, through hanging, even opening the hips up will create more space. Is doing 2+ minute handstand holds overkill? Is it worth training for endurance, higher times, or do you eventually plateau at a certain point? It's an interesting one. Some people, Miguel Santana, who I trained with for a while, been to a couple of his workshops. He gets all of his students to go 5 minutes plus in a handstand. And even if you are being held up in that position, I trained it for a while. I wanted to work up to a 3-minute handstand. My longest hold is about 2:57. I found training beyond 2 minutes was just boring and time consuming. And I didn't see that much benefit in my training. Saying that, if I'm doing like one arm handstand conditioning and I'm doing one side, 20, 30 seconds, going over the other side, 20, 30 seconds, going back and forth, you can easily accumulate lots and lots of time. I would get like a good place to be, I think, for max handstand holds is being able to do a 2-minute hold. So I always check in that I can do a 2-minute hold. I normally get to about 2:20 and I start shaking and trembling and I have to come down. But if I dropped below 2 minutes, I would put some conditioning work back in to make sure I bring 2 minutes back up. Because in my head, I think that's a good number to have consistently from a conditioning point of view. If you get to 60 seconds and you're shaking and falling over, then I think that's a weakness in endurance, and that could come to bite you when you're doing some of your longer holds or longer exercises, presses, handstand push-ups, one-arm handstand work. You might run into the issues that your endurance isn't good enough. But if you can hold for 2 minutes plus, I believe that's enough. But like I say, if you go and train with some other amazing handstand coaches, they will probably some of them will take you to 5-minute handstands and think it's beneficial. So I know some people even go like 10 minutes. I'm not a big fan of it, and it's super boring. So that's just my personal preference. I wouldn't go beyond that. I just make sure that I can do 2 minutes. Any tips to improve hamstring mobility? Yes, visit your hamstring flexibility on a daily basis at your level. So obviously don't, force yourself into a deep forward fold. If your forward fold looks like this, don't do this. Like if your body looks like this, don't force yourself into a forward fold every day. What you should be doing is sitting down on the floor, doing your shoelaces up like this, sitting in this position for a minute or two on a daily basis, even sticking your leg up on something, holding that position, and just hanging out there more often during the day. And then whenever you do your training, stretch your hamstrings. Once you get to a level that you're comfortable, just wait for my wife to leave. Once you're comfortable with a forward fold that's not compensating the spine too much, then I would be doing forward folds every day, just visiting positions. And again, doing things like Jefferson curls when you do your training to go beyond that. Big fan of using a dorsiflect hamstring forward fold once you've got the flexibility to do it. So raising the feet up on something, like a slide board or something, and then hanging down there, but increasing that range so your calves aren't getting in the way. Because when I go into forward fold there, you can see that's way deeper. So calves are something that will get in the way, not just the hamstrings. So doing it dorsiflex will wind them up and create way more space. So I'm a big fan of opening the forward fold up as much as possible because it makes all the handstand stuff, L-sits and that way more comfortable. I've got a couple of videos specifically on hamstring mobility with my favorite exercises. Just search Paul Twyman and then hamstrings and it will come up. Thoughts on training with Ido Portal and Yuval Alion. They're amazing, both in different ways. Ido was like, I started training with Ido when I saw that picture of him in a one-arm handstand. I went to one of his workshops, done some online coaching with him. He was amazing in terms of that timing when he brought this style of training a little bit more well-known to more of the masses. So, I thank him for that in terms of my journey. However, once I'd worked with him for a while, he wanted to take me into different directions that I wasn't interested in. So I stopped training with him for that reason. So he was very much, if you follow Ido's way, you must go in this journey. And that didn't suit me. I wanted to work more on my one-arm handstand and preferred the hand balancing route. And just really wanted to focus on handstand push-ups, presses, and planches, the things that I really enjoyed. So that's when I decided to stop training with him. And then went and trained with Yuval. So Yuval is amazing for one-arm handstand coaching. Technique-wise, if ever I want to show people the perfect tuck handstand, the perfect 7 handstand, positioning-wise, Yuval's work is the way what he can do is on another level. So if you want to be a hand balancer, Yuval is one of the best in the world to teach you those skills. Miguel Santana is good as well. Dan Liddard is amazing at hand balancing. Again, Miguel's the same hand balancing. If you want to do more calisthenics type stuff, I would do what I done and mix up a few different things and just try training all the different, learn from lots of different people, but focus on what you're passionate about. That's the biggest thing. I try and get that from all my clients. When people come on as online clients with me, I want to know what their goals are, specifically the movements that they really resonate with. And then I try and program around that. And if their goals change in terms of what they're passionate about, we need to change their program. So I don't tell them what I want them to do. I want them to tell me what they want to do, because I believe that's what we should be training around, and that's what's going to keep you consistent. Also, have you thought on doing some retreats yourself? Because I've still got a young family, I wouldn't do retreats at the moment, and just the logistics of doing it, I just don't have time to do it. However, whenever I travel, I always do workshops. I just don't travel that much. But yes, I'll be doing more workshops. I'm looking at traveling again next year for sure, international, and I'll do some workshops, but not retreats, just because of family and time and where I'm at with everything else. Juggling is just too much. This is great advice. Thank you for answering my questions. No problem. Ideally, how much time does it take for someone to learn the handstand? I'm currently able to do wall-assisted handstands and hold them for 30 seconds or so, but not much progress over than that. It's all down to consistency and how quickly you learn balance. So it's very individual. Most people don't train enough, consistently enough. So obviously people get excited, they get keen to do something, and then they'll train for the first 2 weeks, every other day, every day, whatever it is. And then normally it dies off. And then they start up again and they dies off. Like most people that come to my handstand, I teach only one handstand class now. I've backed off a lot on in-person classes, but I do one a week. Majority of the people that come to that tell me they want a handstand, but then we go to another week. So they come on every Wednesday. And then when they come back on the Wednesday, I ask them, did they do the homework? Who's practiced? And out of 10 people, say there's 1 or 2 people that have done any practice in a week. So that's why they're not progressing so fast with their handstands. Now, if they're happy with that, that's fine. But if you want to learn a handstand quickly, you need to be training it 5 or 6 times a week in some way. Not too high. You want to be doing like 2 hours of handstand practice a day, but 15, 20 minutes every other day, every day will get you progress quite quickly. Most people should be able to get some sort of freestanding hold, 5 to 10 second holds in 6 months. Or before that, but it does depend on the individual. Some people would take 12 months. I've had a lady before take 12 months to kick up to the wall. She was coming to handstand class once a week, and then eventually she got her handstand kick up to the wall, and now she's pulling from away from the wall. That was a different gym I was working at, and I haven't seen her recently, but some people are just take longer for some reason. So, but most people, I would say, around the 6-month mark, you should be able to do some sort of freestanding hold if it's pull away and hold for a few seconds, or if it's kick up in the middle of the room and hold for 20, 30 seconds. It's very individual. Some people get it super quick, which can be annoying for other people if it's in a class environment. Do you recommend yoga for flexibility? I go about 5 times a week, and I think it's helped a lot with flexibility and all kinds of handstands, headstands, forearm stands. Yes, definitely. If you're passionate about the yoga and it's a good way of being consistent, then yes, definitely. If someone was doing calisthenics, it's tricky to add in yoga on top of what they're doing, because yogas can be something that you really get into, and it's just very time consuming. It's fantastic, but it's really then hard to juggle both things. It's the same as like saying, should you do CrossFit? Should you do weightlifting? Should you do Olympic lifting? Should you do rock climbing? All those things. So all of those things are really, really good, and they'll assist you in your journey. But it's very hard to do all of those things well. You'll just get an okay level at each of them. So yes, I train a lot of people that are yoga practitioners in some way, either teach yoga or go to yoga, and I help them with their specific goals, whether it's to achieve a handstand or a handstand press for their yoga class, which is perfect. But if someone was not doing yoga and their main goal is calisthenics, I don't know whether I'd recommend them to do yoga as an addition, just because of time-wise. But if you're already doing yoga and you get lots of benefit from it, then fantastic. Just make sure that you're also adding a little bit of strength in. So I'll be definitely doing skin the cat on the rings, and a little bit of strength work, maybe a deadlift or something like that, to counteract some of the things that are missing in the yoga practice from a movement point of view. And make sure with your handstand practice that you're doing enough up against the wall drills for your handstand balance. Because a lot of people that practice yoga on the mat all the time, they're not doing enough of the wall drills because it's not part of the practice. Hope that makes sense. This is kind of discouraging to me, as I set myself a goal to achieve this by the end of the year. So I want to know if I've set myself a realistic goal. Also, how many times a week to train. In terms of, I've got no idea in terms of how often you should be training a week and how long it's going to take you. Like because I've had people get a handstand within 2 weeks. A 10-second handstand. Never trained handstands before, and they can do a handstand in 2 weeks. And then I've had other people that take 6 months, 9 months. So it's very individual. If you're conditioned already, and you can easily kick up to the wall, you can hold a chest to wall handstand for 20, 30 seconds, no problem. You should be able to achieve a freestyle handstand pretty quickly. And I would do something every day. Just make sure that you're doing the right drills. So make sure you're hitting chest to wall handstands conditioning wise. You're doing back to wall heel pulls, and you're doing chest to wall toe pulls. You do those 3 drills at minimum every other day with quality. You should have a freestanding handstand in 2 months. So don't don't be discouraged if you're passionate enough about doing it. And you're at an okay level already in terms of the confidence to kick to the wall, and you haven't got any worries about kicking up and things like that, then you should make quite quick progress. But like I say, it's very, very hard just seeing a comment to without assessing. If I can see videos and know where you're at, then I'll be able to give you a more of a more accurate answer. How many times a week should we train handstand balance, wall assist? Same thing. So you just got to, whatever your body will handle. If your body's happy to go every day, every other day, try it. If your body gives you any signs where it's not happy, so you get any aches or pains anywhere and it feels like it's too much, just back off a little bit, and then just slowly increase it up. I'd normally recommend 3 to 4 times a week for a beginner. Short, sharp sessions, getting conditioned, slowly increasing that to 5 to 6 sessions a week. But it might just be a few kick-ups to the wall, and it might be a chest to wall hold. So it might literally take 5 minutes. And then other days you're doing 20, 30, 45-minute sessions where you're working the mobility, a little bit of strength, and doing all the other exercises. Just got here. Thanks for the Q&A. Cool. We'll catch up on what I missed later. If you do miss anything, and if you want to put any questions, you can comment below as well. Don't feel like you have to put anything in right now. I've lost where I am. Thank you for giving good fitness advice. There are some bad YouTubers like Juscooby, who is NASM certified, but he should not be a fitness trainer. Yeah, obviously the best way with all the stuff that you read and all the coaches you work with and everything anyone tells you, just test it. Don't find what works for you, and don't believe it until you've tried it. See what gels with you. Even the stuff that I'm saying, because I'm guessing a lot of the time. I'm doing it from experience, so hopefully I'm giving some advice that works and helps, but it might not be suitable for your body for some reason. So listen to your body, see how you go. Okay, where was I? In your opinion, how many individual skills is it possible to pursue at any given time? Again, it depends on your current level and what foundations you have. If you have good foundations, so you can do dips, chin-ups, skin the cat, basic planche leans, stuff like that, you can normally go for 3 or 4 goals because a lot of them are related to each other. So I like to have 3 goals is a good way to do it. Is what I recommend for online clients to have as priority. So a handstand balance goal, this is normally, obviously if your handstand balance is not part of a goal, then it doesn't matter. But what I recommend is a handstand balance goal, a bent arm strength goal, and a straight arm strength goal. And then that's much easier for programming. It's much easier to focus on from a split in terms of your week, and keeps it nice and simple. And then I'd have secondary goals. So you might have a handstand push up as a first goal, but your secondary goal for bent arm might be a muscle up. And that's quite easy to program. Thank you for posting great content. You are a fantastic communicator and the channel is gold. Thank you. That's awesome. And if you do have any feedback, good or bad, please let me know, guys, or requests. I do feel like I repeat myself a lot on the channel because the way I train is normally how I post content. So, I'm alternating. I'm doing handstand push-up content, press handstand and planche content, and handstand balance, and then all the stuff that goes with that, the mobility work. And when I look at it, because I'm doing it every day, I'm thinking I'm just putting the same content out all the time. But I think, that's what I train. I've been training that for 11 years. I've been teaching it for 11 years. And it is basically the same stuff over and over again, but you just learn in layers. So like me explaining it in different ways. Normally I'm training when I do the videos as well. So I'm just using that as my accountability as well. One, to give content out to let people know about me, and then my services in terms of how I make money. And then also to keep me accountable for my training, because I want to always be able to demo stuff. Okay, I'm currently training the handstands 6 days a week, 1 intensity day with 8 sets, then 1 day rest, then 5 days of doing heel pulls off the wall in the kitchen for 1 to 2 sets. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah, really, really good. And just listen to your body. As soon as you feel like you can do more, once you get comfortable with the heel pulls, and they're really good, just think we need to do something for the underbalance as well. So you need to be doing toe pulls or do heel pulls and then try and pull back to the wall using that toe pull. You'll start to feel that over time, where you'll kick up to the wall, and then you'll be able to heel pull off. So you pull up and away, and then when I go too far there, now I'm using my underbalance to pull myself back again with the shoulders. So I push up and away with the fingers to handstand as soon as it goes a little bit too far. I'm now learning the underbalance to pull back again. That's a nice way of starting to integrate the underbalance work into the heel pulls, especially if you're not super confident of going chest to wall. I have a pretty decent handstand kick up, and I'm working on the frog stand to handstand. But when I try to do the handstand push up, I tend to lose my balance right away when pushing. So do you mean when you're pushing, when you come back up again? So you're doing an eccentric handstand push up, and then you try and push back up and you lose balance straight away? Is that what I mean? If so, I would use the back to wall or the chest to wall handstand push up drills, just giving a little bit of balance control. Normally that back to wall, I don't know if he was here earlier when I was demonstrating the back to wall handstand push up drill. That's a fantastic one where you can mimic the pathway of the handstand push up. So the straight leg is showing me where both legs will be eventually. And then I just come down, I can try pushing back up. And then I can try coming down a bit more, pushing back up. I can even float that leg a little bit and just use it if I need to. So that was just assisting me slightly as I go up and down without overusing the wall. And I'm not bananaing because I'm not using both legs on the wall at the same time. And that makes a lot of sense. I do find I still have to carve out 15 minutes a day separate to practice handstand lockups, kick-ups, that means, and holds. Yes, definitely skin the cat. Yeah, skin the cat is amazing exercise. I think everyone should train skin the cat. It's such a big exercise where it covers so many movements at once. It's training like planche when you go through to that German hang at the back of the movement, and then front lever pull at the front. Like you'll basically build a pretty decent front lever and back lever by just training skin the cat. Means you don't have to do all those sets for the front lever, back lever. Yeah, kick-ups, not lockups. I can do 8 to 10 reps wall assisted, but I am not able to get freestyle handstand push-ups. So what should I do? Work eccentric freestanding. So really slow eccentrics in handstand push-ups, ideally down to a deficit. So raise your hands up, really super slow, and then work crow to handstand, freestanding. And also just check your freestanding handstand. How strong is it? If you kick up to handstand 10 times, do you catch all 10? And can you hold for 30 to 60 seconds, no problem, in a freestanding handstand? If you can't, that's probably where your weakness is. And I would do more work on your freestanding handstand while still training a handstand push-up, but know that you're probably going to need a little bit of wall assist, or you're going to fall over quite a bit when you're trying to do freestanding balanced handstand push-ups. Okay, where are we? Your content, especially the daily YouTube shorts, is fantastic. Daily reminder to stay consistent and keep my passion to train burning. Yeah, cool. Fantastic to hear. Sometimes the shorts are a little bit, there's not enough information in there, and I give things that are probably a little bit too bigger jumps, but I hope then that triggers people to go to the longer content while I try and give the meat. Thanks a lot for the response. I tried doing kick-ups without wall support, and sometimes I end up almost falling on my back, even though I learned to bail out. Any suggestions about this? So obviously just check that your technique that you're using when you do a freestanding kick-up is the same technique as you're using against the wall, as long as the one against the wall is you trying to kick to handstand. So what's really common when people kick into the wall is they do a technique like this. So this leg goes into the wall and then they step up. So if yours looks like this, or if you're kicking like that, that's going to make it really hard for you to kick up in the middle of the room because you're using the wall, so you're kicking to the wall every time. What we've got to think about when we're prepping to start to do freestanding handstand, even when as soon as you're ready to do this, even if you're not thinking about freestanding handstand, you should be practicing going to handstand, not going to the wall. So it doesn't mean that you don't go to the wall. So if you think about it in percentages, a freestanding handstand, so if I kick up here to a freestanding, I've kicked up there 100% of the handstand. So I've gone to the handstand. If we're kicking to the wall, we should ideally kick to 101%. So I literally go up to handstand and then I just go over to the wall, as opposed to 110%, which is kicking to the wall. So we don't want to be kicking into the wall. We want to be kicking to handstand that just goes over to the wall. So making sure that we have a strong base, hands on the floor. Wait for the truck to go past. So hands on the floor, shoulders on top of the hands, focal point. I have the base, and then I kick on top of the base, and I might go slightly over to the wall. So that's where we want to be. So then when I move it away from the wall, exactly the same base, kick to like 80, 90%. See how the shoulders are staying on top of the hands, the focal point is staying the same. And I just keep making that higher and higher, and then I should be able to catch inside my balance window, whatever my balance window is. But don't move the head and shoulders around. Don't be kicking into the wall, especially don't kick into the wall when the wall's not there. Supinated grip in front lever feels better for me than normal grip. I feel like I can lay back into the lats more. Is this normal? Yeah, it's probably you're overusing the bicep a little bit more if we go supinated, because you tend to be a little bit like this. I would think more go pronated, but push away on the bar. So when we're thinking about is when we do front levers, I'm pushing the bar away and down. A good way of doing it is if you practice on a bar that's low and you can step into it, not a pull-up bar. You can do it on rings as well, but I like to use even like a bar like this. So then when I'm going to step into or go into my front lever, I'm going to push down and away on the bar. So I'm doing like this type of movement. So my shoulders are going that way. So I push down and away like that. So the energy is that, not pulling myself up to the bar. So that can really help like a lower bar and stepping into it and think about that type of movement. Also practicing skin the cat, front lever pulls. Really good front lever pulls because that gets you to pull down more, which was your torso coming up. Do you have a special exercise to help for handstand balance? Handstand balance, just 2 exercises, back to wall and chest to wall for overbalance and underbalance. That's all you need. I've got loads of videos on it, but I'll quickly go through it. So back to wall overbalance, when you're falling onto your back, you need to learn to pull away from it and stop that from happening. So the best way to do it is kick up to the wall, look down towards the floor, make sure your shoulders on top of the hands, you've got a strong focal point looking straight down. And then I'm going to push up so my body gets taller. My body's one segment, one piece. I push through the fingers and then just float off the wall, then relax the fingers to go back. And I just practice that for repetitions. So that's practicing overbalance. And then when you're ready, turn around, do the underbalance. So falling back onto your feet in a handstand. So there, now I need to control the underbalance by taking the shoulders forwards. My toes become light, and then I push up to handstand, back again. If you become an expert at those two drills, you'll then be able to hold a handstand like that, because you're increasing the amount you can fall on one side and the other without falling down, the amount you can move on each side. That will take a few months to understand, especially the second one. But as soon as you get it and it starts to click, then your freestanding handstand will come. That was fantastic demonstration. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, the reason for doing the heel pulls off the wall 5 days a week is because I'm scared of in the kitchen or there's space constraints. Yeah, so stay super safe. Last thing you want to do with the toe pulls is scare yourself, because that will set you back weeks. So when you can't do it, just have someone spot you, put their hands on your calf if you've got that option. If not, keep with the heel pulls and just try and practice like I demoed. It will take a little bit longer that way, but you'll feel safe, which is one of the biggest things. On my intensity day at my studio, I do 4 sets of toe pull, hands very close to the wall, and 4 sets of freestyle attempts. Yeah, and if you can get someone to support you, that will make the toe pulls better. They've got to understand what you're trying to do, sort of go with you, but that will build your confidence. And then over time, you won't need them anymore. Have you ever trained anyone who cannot see on how to kick up to handstand? How would you do so? I'm not sure what do you mean by cannot see on how to kick up to handstand? Do you mean they're partially sighted? I've got a guy at the moment who's legally blind, who's training to handstand, which is amazing. And it's 100% possible for sure. I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Awesome explanation. Thanks for a lot for doing this. Thanks for the videos. Thank you for your support. Handstand push up easier on hands or powerlets. Normally it's easier on the floor. Handstand push up easier on hands or powerlets. Some people will prefer handstand push ups on P bars because you can pull yourself around a little bit more. I would train both. So I learned deficit handstand push-ups on P-bars. I didn't use boxes to start with. And that was cool because I had the ability to then handstand throughout the handstand push-up range, both on the floor and on the bars. So the deficit ones I was doing on the bars so I could take my head and shoulders below. So I would do both. And it's normally the one you practice the most is the one that you'll say is easier, but it depends on the individual. And should you turn your biceps forwards in handstands? So when you push up, your arms bend straight back. I would focus on bringing the elbows in as you come down. But when you're handstanding, this is how I handstand. I push. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about internally rotating, externally rotating. Just push up. And then when you do a handstand push up, your elbows will come back and turn. So exactly the same as when you do a push-up, like a tricep push-up or a dip. Think dip. Dip's probably the simplest way to think about it. But you're thinking the push-up at the top, you're pushing away, and then you're bringing your elbows in as you bend them. Can you do a handstand with your eyes closed? Yes. Yeah, let's demonstrate both those things. So number one, handstand with the eyes closed. So there's a handstand. There's me looking at you. There's me with my eyes shut. So I'm holding handstand now, eyes shut. So that's not too bad. Actually, I use this sometimes when I'm teaching handstands in classes. We'll learn to balance away from the wall with the eyes shut. And then handstand push up. So if you watch my elbows, so if I go, this angle is probably best. So I'm pushing away at the moment, just pushing it up. So there's my straight handstand push up. See the elbows coming in and backwards. So there, and then the same on the way back up, and then I push up and away at the top. But don't get too confused on trying to force something to happen with muscles when you're doing calisthenics skills. Think the drill, the movement, and you're trying to, like the handstand push-up, I'm pushing as hard as I can. In planche, you're pushing as hard as you can. You'll naturally protract, you'll naturally straighten the arms, your rotation will go where it needs to go. Yes, someone who is partially sighted, apologies. Yes, definitely. So obviously you just need to be safe. Again, it depends on the individual. I would start with things like crow balance, frog balances, things that are close to the floor, and then use wall assist a lot. So obviously I wouldn't be doing chest to wall, pulling off the wall. I'll be doing lots of back to wall, teaching them to first create a very, very strong base. So lots of energy in the arms and the shoulders. It'd be similar to training someone who has way more strength than flexibility or way more strength than balance. You would prioritize getting them to learn to handstand using their strength. So staying very close to the floor with their hands and their shoulders, build control there, and then slowly opening up and build the control on top of that really strong base. What you don't want someone who is partially sighted to do is to have their, and you don't want anyone to do this, is to have their balance in their legs and their hips, because they'll wander around like that in the handstand. We want it all to be grounded into the floor. So yes, you just obviously have to guide them in the right way. So yeah, it's definitely doable. Sorry to be somewhat off topic, but are your big shoulders a byproduct of your hand balancing work? Do you think it's necessary to develop some shoulder muscular before going into hand balancing? Yeah, I've always had my shoulders and triceps have always been like my best body parts. I done from, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. I trained with weights, and I used to be relatively strong in the gym compared to other people with dumbbell pressing, bench pressing, overhead pressing. So I've always had strong push. So my shoulders and triceps have always been quite well developed. And now, obviously, that's probably part of the reason that I resonate towards the handstand push-up work and those type of pushing skills. And I'm sure that's why it maintains some muscles there. I've just got a 48-year-old dad bod on top of that now. So I'm not so muscular looking as I used to be, but I've still kept shoulder strength and size and tricep strength and size from all the pushing exercises. Now, if you train calisthenics type movements, dips, handstand push-ups, pike push-ups, chin-ups, and things like that, your body type will develop more like a gymnast's upper body, because that's what they do. And if you look at a gymnast's upper body, they've got amazing biceps, triceps, shoulders. You know, their upper body could get them in a bodybuilding competition, probably not their lower body, but their upper body could. So you've only got to look at that, and that's normally what is built from training calisthenics type movements. However, I wouldn't start bodybuilding to try and increase your development of your triceps and things for calisthenics. I would build your body will be a byproduct of your training. However, if you need to build some strength for like handstand push-ups by adding in some overhead pressing, some dips and things like that, that's obviously a good idea. I do feel like my shoulders have grown, but I noticed that those with bigger shoulders, anecdotally, I can't say that word, anecdotally, seem to pick up handstands way faster than those without. Yeah, normally, so think of it as normally people that are more muscular are more athletic, so they'll tend to pick up things more naturally and maybe a little bit more in shape. But also with handstands and handstand control, having the base doing all the work is so important. And that's what can be one of the downsides of having a strong yoga practice, is the hip flexors and the hips are so involved with the movement and the legs that trying to balance when your hips and legs are trying to balance you tends to do this. But if you're more used to controlling things with your upper body, then that will tend to make things easier because it's closer to the floor, it's the base. Would you recommend any supplementary shoulder work for handstands? I don't normally, outside of calisthenics, unless someone is particularly weak and they want to increase, add in some overhead pressing with a barbell or dumbbell or something. That's like obviously great strength building. But ideally, I would do it through push-ups, dips, and things like that. I wouldn't normally add in shoulder work, just again for time. Just found out about your channel. I'm turning 31 this year and was worried about my age interfering in my handstand push-up progression. Now I feel so relieved. Congratulations. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a big believer that, this style of training is so good for you as you age. So I started at 37 and I'm now 48. Thank you very much. Can I learn handstand push-ups without doing frog stand to handstand? Yes, 100%. You don't need to use frog stand to handstand. Frog stand to handstand is a great drill, but you could get handstand push-ups by doing pike push-ups, chest wall handstand push-ups, freestanding eccentrics, and partial range. You could probably get handstand push-ups by literally just doing partial range, slowly increasing your range every day. But I would normally go 2 or 3 exercises. It doesn't have to include frog stand to handstand. One thing to think about is that you want to pick the exercises and the drills that gel with you. Obviously, they need to have a good relationship to the goal that you're working towards. But if you don't gel with a certain exercise for some reason, find something else that's similar. I'd highly encourage anyone who's training with me to do the same thing, to let me know if there's any exercises that they just don't gel with for some reason. It could be in handstands. It could be one where you've hurt yourself in the past, or something scared you, or you don't have the equipment for it, or whatever it is. If you just don't gel with it for some reason, you need to change that exercise. There's normally something that's similar that does just a good enough job or close to it, and you'll train it much better if you gel with it. Guys, I think I've caught up with all the questions. We're at 1 hour 22. Is there anything else before we finish? Normally I get some requests to see Rosie. She is over there. She's fast asleep. How do dips carry over to handstand push-ups and handstands? I see in a lot of videos, fitness FAQs, Sonderberg, but the direction of energy seems to be down instead of overhead. What mechanism? So you're just using the same muscle. So if I do that, that's exactly the same as that. However, it's inverted. So one's upside down, one's the right way up. The good thing about a dip compared to a barbell press. So if you think with a barbell press, you're doing that. The issue with the barbell presses is what's called open chain. So you're moving the barbell. I'm not moving my body. With a dip and a handstand push-up is we're moving our body. So our hand stays still and we move our body up and down. So the dip, if anything, carries over better to a handstand push-up than an overhead press. However, the overhead press goes overhead. But that's where like a pike push-up would probably be better than both of those 2 exercises. The downside of the pike push-up is that the body position and how we do it. A lot of people would tend to do more of a standard push-up position, and the hip flexors being closed is very locked in. So it sort of really encourages the hip flexors to be on all the time. Yeah, Rosie's been very quiet today. She went out for a long walk this morning. And there's no other dogs walked past yet. Normally we get some dogs walking past and she gets excited. Just subscribe to you. Thank you. From now on, you're an inspiration to me. Awesome. Thanks, guys. yeah, if you can support the channel anyway, guys, even if it's just commenting, subscribing, it's fantastic. The channel's taken a bit of a dip at the moment. I watch all the numbers and see things, and it's like everything's dropped down, like the video views, the subscriptions, just everything's a bit lower at the moment. YouTube does do that. It goes up and down a little bit. But I want to try and help you guys as much as I can. So just checking that you are seeing my videos. So make sure you are subscribed, or if there's any video requests, is really useful, because I want to make sure that I'm making content that you guys want. Where were we? Thanks, Paul. Is weight matter to learn handstand? Yeah, obviously weight makes a difference. If someone's 200 kilos compared to someone who's 80 kilos, it's going to be much easier for the 80 kilo person to learn. Same as learning any fitness related skill or movement related skill. It's going to be easier the more flexible, mobile, and then the lean body mass you are. So it does. One of the cool things is if you are heavier, like I'm a bit heavier at the moment. I could do it if I lost 5 kilos. All of this stuff would be so much easier. But what it does mean is that I've been training 5 kilos heavier, or if you're training 10, 20 kilos heavier, as long as your joints are happy, it's like training constantly with a weight vest on. So if you take the weight vest off, or you lose a bit of weight, suddenly you feel amazing. So you could argue it's a good way of training is to be slightly heavier, but obviously you just need to watch things like your back and joints and stuff and check you're happy. Hey, Paul, how are you? Oh, hey, how are you? Long time since we don't talk. I started training for Muscleup 2 weeks ago. I can do 12 to 15 pull-ups. Any special thing for recommend to work on my first Muscleup? Yes. So with the Muscleups, obviously pulling is one aspect. We need to have a strong pull. We need to have a strong dip, and then we need to have a strong understanding of the transition. Now, the understanding of the transition, I'm assuming you mean a false grip ring muscle up. It depends whether you need a ring muscle up or a bar muscle up. And if it's a bar muscle up, whether it's a kipping muscle up or it's a strict bar muscle up with a false grip. So there's a little bit different on how you train the transition. But either way, you just need to focus on those 3 elements. So having a high pull up, so come into at least here. And then if you're doing the false grip one, then the transition is through to the bottom of the dip, training that part. So if it's on the rings, you're doing it bar muscle up. Okay, so if it's a bar muscle up, you have 2 options, or there's 2 or 3 options, but normally the 2 options would be you could go false grip. So you literally train false grip pull-ups on the bar. You could do eccentrics. If it's a kipping muscle up where you're going to use a kip, you need to learn more of a high pull. So learn like standing on a box or a bench in front of the bar and then stepping off, have a little target on the floor. I need to make a video on it. I've got some videos on bar muscle ups, but I'll make a new one on it. And then you need to put something down on the floor as your target. So then you step off the bar, take your feet to the target and back up again, and learn to pull higher and higher up the bar. And obviously then when you get up past your chest height on the bar, you can then just lean over the bar. If that's it. If it's a false grip muscle up, we need to train pull-ups with this part of the wrist on the bar, so holding it. That's why I've got tape on these bars. So I've got a video showing how I use the tape for a strict bar muscle up. So I learned to do eccentrics and pulls with my hand in this position on the bar. I'm going to show you. So there, so I've got contact with there. So I'm pulling up. As long as the chest is over and I've got my legs in like an L sit, I can then roll around the bar. But I've got a specific video on it. If you just search my name and then muscle up. That's extremely informative. I have been considering the overhead press as supplementary training, but pike push-ups and dips. Thank you so much. Rosie's such a cutie. Thank you so much for doing this. You give excellent guidance. Thank you. Appreciated. Favorite calisthenics skill? For me, I think it would still be a one-arm handstand, even though I don't train them as much. I make sure I can do a one-arm handstand, but I don't. I think it's the thing that got me into this style of training. And then probably a handstand push-up after that. The dead press is a really cool Like 90-degree handstand push-ups is a cool movement, but I think it would have to be the one-arm handstand for me. YouTube is funny like that. Yeah, I make some money from YouTube, but it's mainly, my job's a full-time coach, so an online coach. That's how I make majority of my money, and that comes from YouTube. So it is YouTube and Instagram as I get most of my clients from. So to see, the main source of your feed for your business goes up and down. Luckily, it hasn't affected me from a business point of view. I'm still nice and busy, but to see the numbers go up and down and fluctuate so much with YouTube can be frustrating or worrying. But hopefully, the YouTube lives can help. I'm going to do more of these. I really enjoy doing them. That gives me ideas on videos as well. So make sure you do put any ideas if you have video requests in. Who are the top 5 best teachers you've had? So from a handstand balance point of view, it would be Yuval Avalon, Miguel Santana, Daniel Lidard are probably the top ones from a handstand balance point of view. Yuval probably number 1 because of his age. So he's slightly older than me, and just his technique and passion for hand balancing. Ido Portal was amazing in the moment. He was amazing. I've gone off him a bit more recently, but learned a lot from him initially in terms of just eyes open to gymnastic strength and things. And he then opened my eyes up to Coach Summer and other people like that who have been teaching this style of training for a long time. And and then I'll probably learn a lot from my students after that. So the people that I've worked with, you really learn from them. What a time to be alive. We have all the resources we need and such quality education. Thank you again, Paul, for the content. I strongly suspect that my coach is one of your students. Oh, okay, fantastic. Yeah. I train a lot of the people that I train are coaches. You are awesome. Thank you so much. Last thing from me, since I have to head out soon. What is the significance of the 8 on your shoulder? I've been curious for years. Okay, so the tattoo, Japanese 8. Mine and my wife's first child was born on the 1st of the 7th. I met my wife on 4th of the 4th. My birthday is 1st of the 7th. My wife's birthday is 26th of the 8th. So it's just an 8 number that comes up all the time. So that's where that comes from. Video ideas, both the front splits and the side splits seem to be popping off on the algorithm recently. Yeah, I keep meaning to make some more flexibility stuff. I'm quite simplistic with my flexibility work, but I am with all my training, I suppose. In terms of like doing splits, I think you should do a lot of splits. Like for middle splits, it's like side splits, basically just Cossack squats to warm up and then do open and closed hip positions and just spend time in both of those. But yes, I will make some videos on it because I think, talking about a simplistic approach to splits, I think is a really cool way of doing it because consistency is the main thing and just, So I'll do a splits one soon. I have got a couple, but they're quite old. I scored a 9 on your flexibility test video, but I still struggle in the straddle. Forward fold, I can get my face into my knees, but in the straddle, I can only slightly move forward with a neutral spine. What would you recommend I do to get stronger in the straddle? Cossack squats are great. Normally, if you do a little test, if you go into your straddle position and then measure the distance, so assess it in some way, stretch your glutes for a few seconds, do a pigeon stretch, quite a deep pigeon stretch, come back into the position, try that, see if that helps. That could set you in the right position. Also, get something to sit on that's at an angle, that's tilted. and also spend way more time sitting in a seated straddle position. Seated straddle and forward fold for a lot of people, and seated straddle is adductors and hamstrings together to create that position, or to increase the range for most people. Is our postural get posturally tight because we don't visit the position enough. So even though you score 9 on the flexibility, if you can be very posturally tight, especially if your body's tried to create stability through postural muscles. So you can really tighten up in those areas. And if you sit on a chair for years, or if you don't access those ranges, they'll just tighten up really quickly. So spending loads of time in a straddle position is probably your best bet. But do the pigeon stretch, see if that helps. Sit on an inclined thing, cushion, and then whenever you're watching TV, sitting down on your laptop, eating, try and sit in a straddle as much as you can. That's what I done. I had to really hit mine hard from a volume point of view, and then it opened up, and now I sit in straddle every day to keep that open, and then use the straddle range. And then if you want to be able to do a straddle press, even more so, like practice straddle entries to handstand, straddle handstand itself. So just in your training, do everything in straddle. Lots of straddle good mornings. So standing straddle good mornings. So these ones. So there, and then open and closing in that position. Using the target's really good, so you know what your target is, and then slowly decrease the range of the target. Those are really good. Okay, guys, if we've got no more questions, I'm going to disappear. This is the longest live I've done yet. 1 hour, 36 minutes. That's a record. Thumbs up, subscribe will be appreciated. If you are a YouTube member, or if you have my app, don't forget there's now the Discord. So you'll find the links to that. If you don't message me, if you can't find them, and I'll give you the link. So the Discord allows you to send me messages direct. If you are on the Discord and you've sent me a message on there and I haven't replied to it, give me a shout and I'll get to it. Sometimes I miss them, same as emails and DMs and stuff. They get buried sometimes. I can't guarantee I can answer all the comments on the YouTube videos now, which is a good problem to have because there's lots and lots of comments. But on the downside, I might miss something. So if you do send me something and I don't reply, please send it again. Send me some reminders. And if you'd like to support the channel, obviously there's my app. It's probably the easiest way to do it. I offer the online coaching, or just subscribing, watching the videos, requesting videos would be awesome. And I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys. I'll show you Rosie one more time. Rosie. She's not even going to get up for you.